Now, retail anthropologist and guru Paco Underhill, for those unfamiliar with him, he's an environmental psychologist and the author of many bestsellers on retail, such as Why We Buy, The Science of Shopping, Call of the Mall, The Geography of Shopping, and more recently, What Women Want, The Global Marketplace Turns Female Friendly. Apart from being a renowned author, he's also the founder of a market research and consulting company called Envirosell. He employs the basic idea of environmental psychology, which is that our surroundings influence our behavior, and to find ways of structuring man-made environments to make them more conducive for retail purposes. I caught up with the man himself during his brief visit to India to discuss what retailers are doing right and wrong and how the Indian retail landscape stacks up against other emerging and advanced markets. Thank you so much for joining us. Truly a pleasure and an honor to have you on Brandequity.
Well, thank you. It is a pleasure to be back in India and casting orbs on you.
So tell me, you've had over 20 years of experience in actually understanding consumer behavior in retail formats. How would you say that the consumer in the East has changed over the last decade or so?
If I take a consumer in Mumbai, and a consumer in Rio, and a consumer in Chicago, at age 8, they have almost the same vocabulary of brands. At 22, they have an astonishing vocabulary of brands. And the difference is access to them. What we see in India and what we see in China is that the exposure to movies, access to an online world, the access to print and media has given people an appetite, often without the tangible experience of being able to see and process those brands. So we characterize people's brand appetites as voracious but a little immature.
And how has the recession changed the buying and consuming pattern in the West, and how has that changed in emerging markets or in the East, where it hasn't been as strong as it has been in the West?
One of the challenges which marketers face is being able to communicate value. I think what we're seeing in much of the mature market is a recognition that I want fewer and better things.
Okay.
And I want much more control over the value of what I'm buying, which is why we see the increased use of a smartphone as a way of doing pre-shopping research. What is happening in the emerging market? First is that sense of convergence isn't as developed, and the penetration of the smartphone is nowhere near as great as it is in Japan or Korea. We also see that social dichotomy where success is often in the hands of younger people. If we look at the West, over 2/3 of discretionary income is in the hands of people who are 50 and over. Whereas if we go to new emerging markets, whether it's Moscow or in Delhi, that there's a new class of people who have made money in the course of their own lifetimes before they hit age 40. And their appetite for goods is really high. So rather than shop at Hyper City in Mumbai, I'm shopping at Carrefour in Dubai.
Sure.
Or I'm going to a Lotus in Bangkok, because I get better quality and I get better prices.
How would you critically evaluate the layout and store design and placement as opposed to, let's say, a lot more advanced markets?
I have been to organized retail here in Mumbai and in Delhi that, from my view, having worked in Brazil, having worked in Mexico, having worked in Russia, is shameful. It's dirty. It's disorganized. The pricing is awful. The in-store signage isn't answerable to a culture where being a merchant has been part of the Indian trading DNA for thousands of years.
So one of the first experience Indians had, we had in terms of a retail store, a hypermarket of sorts, was Big Bazaar, and the Kishore Piani, who's the man behind it, made a statement that said that, you know, I would like to give it a bazaar-like feel, messy, touch, feel, pick up, and hence, till date, Big Bazaar as a concept is unorganized. It's, you know, you touch, feel, throw. But he maintains his market-like, bazaar-like feel. Would you kind of agree with that statement? Because, you know, a lot of retailers who've come after that have much more organized stores, much more cleaner, neater, lots of space in the aisles. So, you know, one is a bit confused on what works.
I think we have to recognize that there is generally an equation in people's heads, that the crowder and more chaotic the store is, the cheaper it is, and the more we are tickling discovery as a shopping mission.
Sure.
Okay. If I'm Big Bazaar, or I'm TJ Maxx, or I'm many discount store chains, I am appealing to one shopping mission, which is the one of discovery. It is a treasure hunt. And in that function here, it works really well. As we as a world move forward, and particularly the pressure is placed on your shoulders, which is working women, we're also very cognizant that we live in a world that's owned by men, designed by men, managed by men, and yet we expect women to participate in it. And therefore we are asking the question, what makes it female friendly? I was recently in a bank in Bogota, Colombia, that decided as a retail bank it was going to be focused on affluent women. It had a branded smell, had branded sounds, it had branded tastes, meaning they handed out candies. Those smells and tastes were coordinated with the color of the bank. And that rather than go to a teller counter, you went to a very comfortable booth where you could make the transaction with the teller, put it into your pocketbook, and feel secure about what that transaction was. There's a Brazilian department store where there are floors of the store where only women are allowed. So if you see a blouse that you want to try on, you don't have to take it back to a dressing room. You can try it on right there.
Thank you very much. Truly a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And with that, we come to an end of this episode of Brand Equity.